What is up? GoodMicWork commentaries back at you with episode 482. I am your host, Greg Morgan, up here with what I expect to be a relatively short podcast this week. Yes, I know every single time I have started out a commentary by saying that, I turn out to be a huge fucking liar and I talk for an hour and a half anyway. However, I really think that tonight is going to kind of be short, judging by what we saw this past week on Raw and Smackdown for February 5th and 6th. There wasn't a whole lot going on. It's kind of one of those in-between weeks, a throwaway week, arguably, and we're just in that little lull here before we get on the other side of FastLane and the Elimination Chamber. So this is probably going to be one of very few weeks in the next couple of months that's going to be really kind of boring and uneventful. So as far as what we're going to get into tonight, I'll just kind of briefly run through Raw and SmackDown. We'll talk about all of the major happenings, all of the big angles. I'll talk a little bit about 205 Live as well, because some big news coming out of 205 Live and that brand. And in addition to that, I might just mention a few comments about the Super Bowl and some of the Corey Graves and Booker T heat. And other than that, that's all I really have written down. So it's going to kind of be a quick one this week. I did come up here live after Raw this past Monday, talked for about 4 hours and did a nice, long, fun stream with all of you guys. I wasn't quite 100% because Super Bowl was the day before and I was nursing a tiny bit of a hangover, so it wasn't as fun as some of my previous live streams, but we still had a good time hanging out, and I appreciate everybody that joined in. Between now and episode 483, I don't know if you're going to get any other videos out of me. I don't really think I'm going to be up here to do any sort of live streams this week because I do believe I'll be working on Monday night. So not really sure what you guys can expect on the YouTube channel, but please stay tuned. Worst case scenario, you will hear from me 1 week from now for episode 483, but keep an eye on the channel just in case I come up and do something fun during the weekend or early next week. I'm also going to be having a few announcements coming to the channel in the next couple of weeks. I am putting together a really huge and really fun WrestleMania week on my channel, and I'm kind of organizing everything right now, getting all of my ideas down, starting to produce some of the videos and some of the things that I'm going to do. But basically, what's going to wind up happening is you're going to get a video like every single day for about 7 or 8 days straight during WrestleMania time, during WrestleMania week. And I'm kind of putting all the details together for that now, and I will probably even upload a video to discuss all of the happenings that I have planned for WrestleMania week, so keep a lookout for that. Other than that, I don't really have any other plugs or anything crazy written down. Of course, follow me on Twitter. We just recently surpassed 4,000 followers on the Twitter channel. Pretty cool. Give my Facebook page a like. We recently surpassed 2,000 on the Facebook page. You guys know all about my website, GoodMicWorkCommentaries.com. You can download the audio version of this podcast right over there. If you have the iTunes or Stitcher Radio app on your phone or device, you can listen to me on there as well. Also, as most of you know, I am up and running now on Pro Wrestling Tees. If you would like to support the show and purchase a t-shirt, I have handed off all my merchandise to them. I am no longer handling it on my own, and I've got 4 designs up there right now, and I've already sold a few of them. So thank you to everybody that has purchased a t-shirt. So if you want to go check out Pro Wrestling Tees, the link is in the description below, and it'll take you right over to my online store. Why don't we just get into what we're going to talk about now? We'll jump right into it here. Like I said, it's going to be a quick one. Monday Night Raw, this past Monday, February 5th. Not a whole lot going on other than Elimination Chamber qualifying matches. So we had a few on this show. We had Bray Wyatt versus Roman Reigns. That opened the show. The winner earned a spot into the Elimination Chamber. Now, what I automatically hated about this is that was there anybody sitting there in that arena or at home in their living room or wherever they were watching Monday Night Raw, was there one single human being alive that thought Bray Wyatt was going to win that match? Absolutely not. We had 3 choices here. Roman is going to win, Roman is totally going to win, or Roman is totally, definitely, motherfucking going to win. Those were the 3 options we had for this match. So I didn't like the insane predictability of this. I know in most cases Roman Reigns is going to get his hand raised in matches. I understand that, but come on, give us something here to where there might be a chance Roman Reigns could lose. But we know right now the plan, at least the way it seems, is that Roman Reigns is not only going to win the Elimination Chamber, but go on to WrestleMania to dethrone Brock Lesnar, unless they do my idea and give the guy who has really been getting the big push in the past few months, if they give him that opportunity and they make a new star. 2 is better than 1, right? So I've been an advocate for Braun Strowman based on how they've been pushing him and what a monster this guy is turning out to be, tipping shit over and dumping over ambulances and fucking announce tables. I swear to God, at Elimination Chamber, he's going to lift up the whole goddamn Elimination Chamber and tip it over and dump everybody out. Mark my words, he's going to do it. So when you take into consideration the insane push that has been handed to Braun Strowman, doesn't it look like he's the guy going into WrestleMania? Still think it's going to be Roman and everything, but shit, based on the way WWE has been handling Strowman on TV, he looks like the man to me, not Roman Reigns. But in all likelihood, Roman will wind up coming out on top of this Elimination Chamber, and we'll get the Roman and Brock match that we haven't seen in 3 years, aside from some run-ins and fatal four-ways and promos in the ring and shit. And Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar is actually a match I do want to see. The problem is, this one is going to be so damn predictable, wouldn't you think? Unless they want to stretch it out even more and have Roman Reigns not beat Brock again, much like at WrestleMania 31, if they throw a swerve or something like that. I mean, I don't know how they can do it to where it's not going to be the most predictable match we've ever seen. It just seems like it's destined to be that. So Roman Reigns is in the Elimination Chamber, and now we can all start panicking. We also had The Miz qualify to be in the Elimination Chamber as well. He defeated Apollo Crews, and much like the Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt match, who the fuck in the building or sitting at home thought that Apollo Crews was going to beat The Miz and qualify for the Elimination Chamber? It would have made no sense for Apollo Crews to be in there at all. It's classic case of which of these is not like the other. He just does not belong. I mean, you can make that argument for Elias too, but I think WWE has more invested in Elias. If I had to guess, he looks like the guy of the two that would be the bigger star. Nothing against Apollo Crews. I think the guy's got an awesome look and he's ridiculously athletic. But still, he's just not, he's not connecting. There's something missing there. So he's still got some work to do. Where Elias, the whole gimmick, the whole look, the whole presentation seems to be pretty over. So Elias, I think, is, I'm glad that he's in there. But The Miz versus Apollo Crews, that was pretty obvious. That The Miz was going to get the nod there and go into the Elimination Chamber. We also had a match on Raw that, much like the first two matches that I mentioned, didn't make much sense either. It was the main event of Raw. It was a triple threat. Elias versus John Cena versus Braun Strowman. There was a stipulation in this match. The winner of the match would earn the final entry into the Elimination Chamber. Like, they would get to enter the match last. So Elias wound up picking up the victory in this, which I thought was great. It's a perfect way to give him a little bit of a rub. He's kind of got a thing going on with Cena on TV right now as it is. So the fact that he was able to get the pin and pin Cena and win that match, I thought it was a win-win for everybody. For Cena to win, okay, but why? For Strowman to win, maybe, if they don't want him to run out of gas before the end of the match, and they do have some sort of crazy spot planned for him where he executes this big feat of strength, like tipping over the fucking ring or something. So I thought maybe he would win so he could come in last and be fresh and powerful for everything, but they gave it to Elias, which I think is great. Elias is not going to win this Elimination Chamber match, but if he goes in there and has a good showing for himself, and when you combine that with how he's been, rubbing shoulders with some top talent in WWE and storyline lately on TV in the past few weeks and months, I think that this can be a really good chance for Elias to kind of break out and shine and become a major player here after the Elimination Chamber. So that's one thing I'm keeping my fingers crossed about, is that even though the Chamber seems kind of predictable, maybe Elias can show us some things in this match and, increase and raise his stock a little bit in WWE. After Elias was able to score that quick pin on John Cena and win the match, Braun Strowman went apeshit and hit them both with multiple power slams as the fans chanted and went crazy. And Strowman, man, for a big, bad, nasty, scary heel, he is over. Fans enjoy him. I enjoy him. My heart just flutters when I see him, much like it does when I see Nikki or Tori Wilson. I am flat out in love with the guy. And I just really think, I've been mentioning it a lot, and I just mentioned it earlier, I just really think that WWE, if they really truly want to do something that's best for business, Roman is already a made man. Why don't you make Strowman too? Just make yourself another star. Isn't that what you're trying to do? So it's going to be really interesting in the Elimination Chamber. If Strowman is not going to win, how is he going to get beat? Who's going to beat him? I have a feeling it's going to be down to Roman and Strowman. And if Roman truly is going on to WrestleMania to win the Universal title, that's a victory he kind of needs to get back. Strowman beat his ass last year. And I know that Strowman actually did lose to Roman Reigns at the last February pay-per-view last year. But other than that, it's been all Strowman. So maybe before Roman Reigns goes in to beat Brock, he's got to pin Strowman on the way there. That's what I'm the most worried about, and that's probably what we're going to see. But if it was up to me, you would have Strowman annihilate everybody. And you also have to think that in the Elimination Chamber that a lot of WrestleMania matches might be set during this match. We still don't know what John Cena is going to do or what Braun Strowman is going to do. And the wild card and the X factor in this is The Undertaker. If The Undertaker is in fact going to have a match at WrestleMania, which I'm still hoping that he's not, but if he is, you would think the perfect place to set this up is the Elimination Chamber and for him to show up inside the cage. You know, the lights go off and then they come on and Undertaker's standing in the middle of the cage or some shit. And then who he attacks is completely up to them. If it turns out to be Cena, great. He attacks Cena, costs Cena the chamber match, costs him a shot at the title, and that sets up Cena and Taker. If they want to put Strowman over here and have Strowman go on to face Brock, then maybe Undertaker can fuck over Roman Reigns and get revenge on Roman Reigns and challenge him again, and then we got a rematch. And maybe Undertaker goes over this time as he goes and rides off into the sunset. Or maybe he doesn't show up at all, and maybe Braun Strowman winds up winning, and it turns into a triple threat. Strowman, Roman Reigns, and Brock at WrestleMania. Don't rule out a triple threat. I still think it's unlikely because we saw the four-way with Samoa Joe at SummerSlam, so if you did a triple threat here, it would almost be the same match. But, you know, I'm just hoping that they don't do something stupid with Braun Strowman. I hope that Triple H is able to work with Rousey and Stephanie somehow, possibly The Rock, although it's looking very unlikely at this point. The last match in the world I want to see is Braun Strowman versus Triple H. So there's a lot of questions as to who guys are going to be working with. If Roman is going into Mania to face Brock, okay, fine. What does Strowman do? What does Cena do? And I think a lot of those questions will be answered in a couple of weeks in the Chamber. Would love to hear your thoughts. What do you guys have to say about that? What do you think is going to happen in the Chamber? What do you think all these guys are going to be doing at WrestleMania? And yeah, it's kind of interesting. But the Elimination Chamber is nearly set now. Next week we will have all the combatants announced officially because we're going to find out who the final guy is next week. And it's going to be a second chance match next week on Raw to determine the final spot. Now, I called this out a week ago. I said after John Cena beat Finn Balor that I was surprised that they did that match as a qualifying match, because if I had to guess, I would think that Cena and Balor would both be in the Chamber, not fighting each other for a spot. So I said right then, I said a week ago, I'm like, look for Balor to find his way in. And it looks like that's exactly what's going to happen. So next week, I believe it's going to be Finn Balor, Apollo Crews, Matt Hardy, and Bray Wyatt, maybe? I forget who the four are. I think that's the four. And the winner will be the final entrant into the Chamber. And when you look at those four, Finn Balor is your only option here. He absolutely must be in there, because Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt, they're busy with each other. As a matter of fact, Matt Hardy attacked Bray Wyatt after he lost to Roman Reigns. So they're probably going to have a match of some kind at the Elimination Chamber. So that can rule out Bray and, of course, Apollo Crews. It would make just no sense for him to win that four-way. So I think you got to go with Finn Balor here. And great, I called it. I knew he would find his way into that match, and rightfully so. You know, even though it's been kind of disappointing since he's come back and he hasn't had any real title shots or anything like that, you still want to keep him near the top of the card because that's where Finn Balor belongs. So hopefully next week my prediction will come true. He'll win that match and he'll be in the Elimination Chamber. But give me all your thoughts about what they can do here. Anything fun they can do, anything different that they can do other than Roman Reigns just surviving everybody and spearing and pinning Braun Strowman at the end, anything other than that. I'm not even going to blow my stack too hard if Roman Reigns wins because we're kind of expecting him to. I just want the match to be good and fun. I'm not a fan of these Elimination Chambers. That's well documented over the years in my commentaries. I've always shitted on this concept because I think it's so ridiculous, this giant spaceship goddamn fucking monstrosity that's so unforgiving and made out of solid steel, and it weighs 95,000 tons, and these guys are killing themselves in there for no fucking reason at all. Drove me crazy. And I've just never really been a fan of it. It went away for a couple of years, and then it came back, and looks like it's here to stay again. So I've never really been a fan of the concept. It's just way too over the top for me. Give me Hell in the Cell. Give me War Games. That's as complicated as you need to get for me personally as a fan. I know a lot of fans love the Elimination Chamber. They have no problem with it at all. They find it very entertaining, and it's fun to watch. We've had some very, very good Elimination Chamber matches. I will say that. There have been some that I've enjoyed, but there's also been some that really sucked. Hopefully this one will be real good. Speaking of the Elimination Chamber, we all know it was announced that the women are also going to have an Elimination Chamber match, and this is the first one ever, and Alexa Bliss is going to have to defend her title against 5 other women. Now, instead of doing qualifying matches, Kurt Angle came out on Monday Night Raw and just announced everybody. It's going to be Alexa Bliss defending her title against Bayley, Sasha Banks, Sonya Deville, Mandy Rose, and Mickie James. So that's your 6 there in the Women's Chamber. And Kurt Angle, it was funny. He looked like he was struggling to get through the promo a little bit. He was stumbling and mumbling his words. And then finally Alexa Bliss comes out there and just fucking kills it on the mic. Oh my God. I love this little girl. She is fantastic. And what I loved is that the crazy bitch basically called out Brock Lesnar. How awesome is that? Talk about fearless. And she's right. The girl's got a heck of a point. And she told Kurt Angle that this is bullshit. I've got to defend my title in the chamber while Brock Lesnar gets to sit on his ass and watch it happen. How is that fair? How is that fair that I'm, wrestling 10 times more than he is every single night? And all the shit that she said, I was loving it. And, just how cool for Brock to be called out by somebody that's the size of his leg. That's pretty hilarious. And it just makes me love Alexa Bliss even more. Becoming a big fan of her. And for those of you that joined in to my live stream on Monday, we had some discussions about Alexa Bliss and how awesome she is in more ways than one, but got a huge kick out of her promo and thought she did great. And she had every right to make a complaint because she's makes a lot of sense. And I would think, just again, based on what we're looking at in this women's chamber, I don't see any reason for Alexa to drop the belt here. At this point, you might as well have her go into Mania with it, right? And for Bayley to win it, or Sasha, or Rose, or Deville, that wouldn't make any sense. They just got there. Maybe Mickie James, because she's a legend, and I would love to see her get one more run with the belt. But that would be random as hell if she wound up winning in the chamber. So I really don't know what they're going to do here. I just think the only option is to have Alexa Bliss retain the title, and then hopefully go into WrestleMania to face Nia Jax. Nia Jax, as I'm sure you noticed, is absent from the Elimination Chamber. She is not in it. So Kurt Angle put her in a different match instead. And I guess at Elimination Chamber, she's going to be taking on Asuka. And if Nia Jax can beat Asuka, the stipulation is that she will be entered into the women's WWE title match at WrestleMania, and it'll be a triple threat. So a lot of assuming here that Asuka is going to be taking on Alexa Bliss or the winner of the chamber at WrestleMania, and if she loses to Nia, Nia will be in the match too, and it'll be a triple threat. Now, what the hell is going on here? I thought that the winner of the Royal Rumble got to pick which champion she faced. Asuka has not picked that champion yet. Shinsuke picked his, but Asuka did not. And I think if you have Asuka and Charlotte sitting in your lap, there is no way you don't do that match at WrestleMania. So unless I'm crazy, I'm guessing that after the Nia Jax and Asuka match at Elimination Chamber, sometime on TV, Asuka's going to wind up announcing that she's going to be challenging Charlotte for the title. That's the match you do. And plus, on the Raw side of things with Alexa Bliss, look at everything that they've been doing with her and Nia Jax. It seems like Alexa versus Nia is going to be the match you need to have there. So I think, you know what? I think maybe you end the streak. I mean, this is a bold prediction, and I'm 3 weeks early. I don't know if I'll wind up predicting this in my actual predictions video, but part of me thinks, is this where you just get rid of that streak and get it out of your life? Just have Nia Jax win now. You kind of want to end that at some point with Asuka. I think the streak is great, and it's been over 2 years now, maybe going on 3 years, something like that she hasn't lost. I think that's very cool and very special, and if you're going to end that streak, it needs to be in a big setting and on a big stage, but they might want to give Asuka the title at WrestleMania, and what a way to bounce back from the streak ending is if literally a couple of weeks later, you're winning the title on the grandest stage of them all. So it might be, an initial shock at first, but within just a couple of weeks, you're going to forget all about it. So I think WWE might have a good opportunity here to end the streak. If they don't, they keep Asuka undefeated, and I say she goes on at least until SummerSlam, until someone beats her. But I think that it's something to at least think about. I'm not sure. I got to kind of think about it a little bit more and sleep on it to see if I really truly feel this way tomorrow. But right now, as I'm speaking, it kind of feels like a good opportunity for them to take the winning streak away from Asuka and move her on. And then it gives Nia Jax an automatic in to the title match at WrestleMania. And then if Asuka winds up leaving for SmackDown or challenging the SmackDown champion, that means the triple threat is now a one-on-one. And you've got Nia versus Alexa Bliss, and everything is set up all nice and nice, just the way we want it. Asuka, Charlotte, Nia, and Alexa Bliss. And hopefully when all the smoke clears here and the dust settles, that's what we wind up getting with our two female matches. The rest of them, we talked about this in the live stream on Monday as far as the women go, and there's been talk. I don't know if it's just rumor, I don't know if it's confirmed or whatever, but given the fact that WWE is doing all of the same matches with the women that they are with the men, what's stopping them from doing a battle royal at WrestleMania? Just like they have the Andre the Giant Battle Royal for the men, what if they do a Battle Royal for the women? And when we were talking on Monday, here's some of the ideas that we threw out. Since the men's Rumble is named after somebody, why don't they name the women's Rumble after somebody too? And then you got to think, okay, what woman in WWE has the type of legacy or has the type of reputation that you could actually name it after? We don't really have a female version of Andre the Giant. You can't really name it after Moolah because WWE is trying to distance themselves from her, from some of the shit that's come to light about her life. Mae Young, they already had the tournament named after her. You know, other female champions of the past, Wendy Richter, she was never a legend. She was there a short time. She left on very bad terms. You know, same thing with Medusa. I don't know if Trish or Lita are necessarily statue-worthy women yet in WWE. It might be a little bit too early. My suggestion initially was Miss Elizabeth because she was the first lady of WWE, correct? But she wasn't a wrestler. So can you name a battle royal after Miss Elizabeth? And after we were discussing this a little bit on the live stream on Monday, I threw out the name Chyna. And I just thought, you know, Chyna, that would be crazy. You know, WWE really wants to draw that much attention to her, but we've seen the shout-outs recently by Triple H and Stephanie McMahon on TV. Triple H did it on the 25th Raw. Stephanie did it at the Royal Rumble. They've both made mentions of Chyna. I think WWE is lightening their stance on her, and I have a really strong feeling that she's going to go into the Hall of Fame this year. This is the year that Chyna should go into the Hall of Fame. So what if they wanted to name the Battle Royal after Chyna? Because think about it. What is Andre the Giant? He's the 8th wonder of the world. What's Chyna? The 9th wonder of the world. How cool would that be? You know? Chyna, you know, she's got that checkered past and everything, but maybe it's just one of those situations. There's probably a lot of guilt involved on Triple H and Stephanie's side. Maybe they feel badly for the way everything went down. A lot of that led to Chyna's downfall. I mean, you're responsible for your own actions, so I'm never going to be stupid enough to blame Triple H or Stephanie for what happened to Chyna. Chyna's a big girl. She's an adult, and regardless of what happens to you, you're in charge of yourself. You know, you're just responsible for your own actions. It's nobody else's fault. However, the situation was very strange, very uncomfortable, and weird, and it sent Chyna down this like downward spiral. So maybe Triple H and Stephanie have some guilt over this, and maybe this is their way to fix it. I mean, I wish I would do anything to have Chyna be alive to accept her Hall of Fame induction, but the reality of the situation is we get a lot of sad endings in wrestling, and this was one of them, and this is another situation where maybe WWE can try their best to make it right. So it's just an idea. You know, they might not want to do this with Chyna because of her reputation and the porn and all that crap. So naming a battle royal after her and erecting a trophy, you know, in her honor, I don't know. I think it would be cool, but I'm not sure if it's a direction WWE would go. As far as what else we saw on Raw, we had more in the Jason Jordan-Seth Rollins saga. Now, Jason Jordan apparently has been injured. There was a lot of rumors and stories coming out on Monday all over the internet that Jason Jordan has got a severe neck injury, and they're going to write him off of TV, and he's going to have to get surgery, and he's going to be out of action for a year. He's got an injury very similar to Stone Cold Steve Austin, Lita, Chris Benoit, people like that, apparently from what the reports on the internet are saying. So I initially was very bummed out about this. I've kind of started to warm up on Jason Jordan because I think he's really doing a good job being that clueless, kind of out of his mind type of heel, just too stupid to even take seriously kind of thing, and I think he's pulling it off well. And so when I heard about this injury, I was like, oh man, what a bummer. But then we get into Monday Night Raw, and I start rethinking the whole thing because the first thing we see is that, you know, Jason Jordan and Seth Rollins are getting their tag team title rematch on Raw. And you have to wonder if this match is even going to happen because Jason Jordan didn't really work at the Royal Rumble and he hasn't been doing much and he's been pulled from house shows and shit like that. So clearly he's hurt. But what we saw was backstage, Kurt Angle is informed by Jason Jordan and the doctors that he's not going to be able to wrestle. They're not going to clear him. And in the most hilarious fashion, Seth Rollins shows up and he finds out this news and he starts losing his shit because his opportunity. What's going to happen to his opportunity? What is he supposed to do now? I've got a tag team title match tonight. Oh my God, woe is me. Not once is this asshole saying, oh shit, don't worry about it, buddy. Take care of yourself. You get well. Shit happens. All that matters is your health and your well-being. You just fix yourself and get yourself right. I'll handle shit. I'll figure something out. I'll go find a partner or whatever. No, Seth Rollins is being a huge baby about this. This guy's a babyface, don't forget, and he couldn't care less about Jason Jordan's injury or his neck or the fact that it could be serious or that he could be quote-unquote out for a year. Doesn't give a fuck. The only thing he cares about is this ridiculous tag team title shot that he shouldn't care about at all. Seth Rollins is a former world champion. He's top tier talent. He's got no business worrying about the meaningless fucking tag belts. Let the tag team division worry about the tag belts. You go chase after big prizes like the Intercontinental title or the World title. That's what you should be worried about. You should be going up to Kurt Angle demanding a match to be entered into the Elimination Chamber, not worrying about your fucking tag team titles. So I found that really funny that Seth Rollins, the babyface, didn't give a shit about Jason Jordan's well-being. I found that so funny. So when I saw that take place on Raw, I'm thinking to myself, I don't know if Jason Jordan's going to be out for a year. This is not how they're going to write him off of TV. It seems like if they were going to really write him off of TV, they would do an injury angle or something like that, not just say, I can't wrestle, see you in a year, while Seth pisses and moans the whole time. And then as he's standing there freaking out, behind him, up walks Roman Reigns. And Roman Reigns, who had already wrestled earlier on in the night, earning an Elimination Chamber spot, beating Bray Wyatt, shows up. Seth Rollins looks at Roman, looks back at Kurt, and says, what do you think? And Kurt says, yeah, fine, go out there and do it. So Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns wound up getting the title shot, which now makes even less sense. So I didn't like the pairing with Jordan and Seth Rollins. I thought it was kind of stupid and pointless. But this pairing between Roman and Seth is even more pointless because neither one of these two guys really needs to worry about winning the tag team belts. It shouldn't be high on their list of priorities right now. And luckily, they didn't win them. They went out there and had a match with The Bar, and Jason Jordan ended up showing up at ringside anyway, and he's out there, and I guess Sheamus and Cesaro grabbed their belts after they were getting their asses kicked, and they tried to leave. They tried to get themselves counted out. Jason Jordan tries to stop them. They shove him, I think, or something like that. Eventually, he throws a punch and winds up getting Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins disqualified, which pisses off both of them even more at Jason Jordan. So I really wasn't sure if this injury is really going to keep him off of TV for a year, because this is not really the way to write the guy off. Every tweet I saw on Monday night was like, tonight's going to be the night where they write him off TV for a year, but it certainly didn't look like they did anything on Raw that was going to keep him off of TV for a year. And then the very next day, WWE releases a statement that he had successful neck surgery that morning. And his timetable is kind of like undetermined. They don't really know how long he's going to be out, but nobody has said anything about him missing up to a year. So it looks like maybe that was one initial diagnosis. Maybe he got a second opinion. Maybe this is a different type of procedure that doesn't require as long of rehab and all of that. So I have a feeling Jason Jordan is going to be back in just a couple of months. Whether he's back for Mania or not, I don't know. But it doesn't look like, to me anyway, that he's going to be missing a year of action, not with the way they wrote him in storyline on Raw. I could be wrong, but that's just the way it looked to me. But I want to wish Jason Jordan nothing but the best in his recovery, and hopefully he's able to get back in action, because he's a young guy. And an injury like that, when you start fucking with spinal cords and discs and necks and all that stuff, it's extremely scary. And especially, we just saw that with Paige. The girl's 25 years old, might never wrestle again. Certainly wouldn't want to see that happen to what really is a phenomenal talent in Jason Jordan. Yeah, the guy's boring as shit on the mic, but as far as his look, his strength, his ability in the ring, he's top notch. So if he can just work on that character side of him a little bit, I think the dude can still be a big deal. So I'm hoping the best for Jason Jordan, and I wish him well. Aside from that, I talked about the women earlier on, kind of get back to them for a second. We had a one-on-one match between Asuka and Bayley. Sasha came up short last week, so Bayley's going to try her luck against Asuka this week. This is a match we saw in NXT. We're no strangers to this match, and it was pretty good. Bayley wound up tapping out, of course. Asuka remained undefeated, and I'd have it no other way. Nia Jax ran over a jobber. Now, I did hear some report about this girl being 17 years old. Did not read the details on that, but apparently they let a 17-year-old get in the ring. Like I said, don't know the story. You guys probably know better than me, but I did hear something about that. So they're kind of building, Nia up, throwing some jobbers at her. And I think it was, I forgot when it was. Was it was it Kurt Angle's announcement, or was it, I don't know what the hell went on, some sort of match involving Mickie James, and Alexa Bliss came out to the ring and kind of helped Mickie James get out of there. So it almost looks like Alexa Bliss sees the writing on the wall. She knows she's not going to be BFFs with Nia Jax for very much longer, and she's trying to find herself some new allies and might be trying to recruit Mickie James. So we'll have to see where all of that leads. But all in all, I'm really hoping all of my ideas about the women earlier on come to be true, because otherwise I just don't know what the hell they're going to do. Other than that, we had a very strange tag team match with Finn Balor and Carl Anderson taking on the Revival. It was supposed to be Gallows and Anderson versus the Revival. Revival cut a promo. Somehow, after everything that was said, I don't even remember what, they somehow agree on Finn Balor and Anderson teaming up instead. They beat the Revival. I don't know if Luke Gallows is hurt or if there's some behind-the-scenes reason there that we saw this bizarre tag team match, but oh well, at the end of the day, we saw Balor and Anderson get the win. It is nice to see the club together, even though they're not doing a whole lot, and hopefully next week, Balor will win that 4-way and earn a spot in the Elimination Chamber. The only other thing I have written down for Monday Night Raw was a cruiserweight match. Mustafa Ali and Cedric Alexander defeated Tony Nese and Drew Gulak, and we had Drake Maverick, the new GM of 205 Live, on commentary. And speaking of 205 Live, some big news coming out of that as well. 205 Live is starting to improve. It looked like they were dead in the water with everything that happened to them. And then most recently with the Enzo situation and him being released and them having a vacant title again, it looked like the brand was a complete mess. But now reports are coming out, and these have been verified by a lot of people, a lot of credible sources on the internet, that Vince McMahon has handed over 205 Live to Triple H. Apparently Vince was very hands-on with this brand, and he's giving it to Triple H. He says, you handle it. Triple H is in charge of the 205 Live brand from now on. And think about the other brand that Triple H is in charge of, and that's NXT. And I think Triple H being in charge of 205 Live is a really good idea, and we are already seeing some of the results of that. The last couple of episodes on 205 Live have been very good. Triple H is probably the perfect guy to be in charge of that brand based on his success in NXT. Maybe the fans can start forming that love for 205 Live the way they do for NXT. This takes place after Smackdown, so I don't know if the crowd is burnt out at some of those shows. You guys can tell me if you've been to Smackdown tapings. By the time they get to 205 Live, I mean, how is the crowd? I never hear any crazy reactions on the show, but the wrestling has always been good because the cruiserweight division is full of talent. And they have decided to do a cruiserweight tournament. When I talked about Drake Maverick and Rockstar Spud coming in as the GM last week, I failed to mention that they're doing a tournament. Now it's going to be a 16-man tournament, and the finals are going to take place at WrestleMania, which is great. I think that's a perfect spot for it. If you want to relaunch and revive this brand, I think WrestleMania is the perfect place to have the finals. But I will say this right now, WWE, if you idiots are listening, do not, under any circumstances, put the finals of this tournament on the fucking kickoff show. I know it's like a 4-hour kickoff show or whatever, and there's plenty of time for matches. I get that. But if you're trying to make this division something, don't put this shit on the kickoff show. Not after 8-10 weeks or whatever it is of tournament, and then you're going to have it, be the first thing we see in front of a half-empty stadium. I think it was already bullshit enough that you did Neville and Austin Aries last year on the kickoff. And that was a match that we all wanted to see. That would have been a good match. So I think whatever they do here, this match needs to be on the main card. It can open the show. That might be a good idea. Lately, WWE has been opening WrestleManias with really big matches. I'm almost wondering if AJ and Nakamura are going to open the show. But if it's not going to be a big title match or anything like that, or a big attraction match, because we had AJ and Shane, I believe, opening up last year, maybe the Cruiserweight match could be a good start for WrestleMania, because we know that match is going to be off the hook and filled with a lot of high flying and all of that. And I have not seen any brackets for this. And as a matter of fact, on 205 Live this week, we saw a couple of more first round matches, and we saw some last week as well. So far, we've had Cedric Alexander defeating Grand Metalik, TJP over Tyler Bate, Kalisto this past week beat Lince Dorado, and Roderick Strong beat Hideo Itami. And speaking of Hideo Itami, by the way, time to release that dude. His time in WWE has been a complete fucking disaster. It's a shame. When they signed him, he was supposed to be the next big thing, and it just really hasn't worked out for him, and I think he could return to Japan and get over huge. So maybe Hideo Itami might be on his way out, losing in the first fucking round of this tournament. But what I noticed is that there's no brackets. And on 205 Live this week, there was a backstage segment with Drake Maverick and Drew Gulak and Tony Nese, where Drake Maverick made a tournament match for next week. So they're kind of making these matches up as they go along. And next week, it's going to be Tony Nese taking on his friend, Drew Gulak, in a first-round Cruiserweight tournament match. So that's the only thing I don't really like about the tournament, is that there's really no brackets to look at, unless I've missed them. If you guys have brackets or anything like that, shoot them my way, throw them at me on Twitter. I just haven't seen any. But I like the idea of the tournament. It's really the only thing you could have done, is to do another tournament. The Cruiserweight Classic was pretty awesome, so maybe this tournament can be almost as good as the Cruiserweight Classic was, and I'm going to make a bold prediction right now. I think the guy that you have to have win this tournament is Cedric Alexander. I just think that they've been building him. It seems like he's been so close a few times. He's been the most consistent guy on the roster. He's so fucking good, and he's crazy athletic, and I've always been a really big fan of Cedric Alexander, and I think it would be a really fun kind of full circle moment for him, because he had a few hiccups along the way. He's gotten some title shots, and he got he was a number one contender during that Rich Swann mess and all that crap, and then he was supposed to face Enzo, I think, and that fell through for some reason. You know, it was just one thing after another. So if Cedric can come out of this thing as the winner, I think that would be great, because don't forget, he had a really strong showing for himself in the Cruiserweight Classic. Fans showed him a lot of love when he finally did lose, and I just think he's going to be the guy. I have a friend to this day. He still referees on the independent scene in the Carolinas, and he worked with Cedric Alexander a few times in Charlotte and just raved about him. He's like, dude, if you could see this guy up close, I mean, he's got everything it takes. So Cedric is kind of my guy right now, and I'm hoping that he comes out of the tournament as champion. We'll have to wait and see. But overall, I think these are positive developments on the 205 Live roster and for the Cruiserweight division. I think Triple H heading up this brand is the best possible thing you can do. It's clearly working for him in NXT, so if he applies a lot of those same philosophies on 205 Live, who knows? Maybe 205 Live has some life left, and this brand is not completely dead yet. But how this tournament comes off and how it all plays out at WrestleMania and where they place that match on the card, I think is going to have a major effect on whether or not this revival of 205 Live lasts at all. Moving on now to Smackdown Live. Not really a bad show this week, but much like Raw, just uneventful. We didn't see a whole lot. Now, the biggest match we were supposed to get on the show was Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. The winner was going to get a shot at AJ Styles' title at FastLane. I had said last week that I think that they should give Sami Zayn the victory here. I think him and AJ Styles can have a really fun match. Kevin Owens has had tons of opportunities. We haven't seen Zayn in one of these high-profile main event matches yet, at least by himself in a one-on-one situation, so I thought he would be the perfect guy. And plus, we're expecting AJ Styles to retain and go on to Mania anyway, so Sammy would make the perfect opponent. But maybe that was a little bit predictable, because what they wound up doing on SmackDown is they had Owens and Zayn having a great match with each other, but AJ Styles is at ringside, and eventually he gets involved, jumps in the match. The match is a DQ or a double DQ or something like that, and AJ Styles kind of ruined it. We didn't get a winner. So Daniel Bryan comes out to the stage and announces that at Fastlane, AJ is going to face Owens and Sami Zayn again, but this time instead of a handicap match, it's going to be a triple threat. So that wasn't a very popular decision either. Now you got AJ Styles going into another 2-on-1 situation. But I guess it's just to add speculation to him dropping the belt. We really don't see him dropping the belt. We don't want to see anything other than Shinsuke and AJ. So AJ's got to come out of Fastlane with the belt. I don't give a shit that it's predictable. I want him to retain. And in a late development that I'm just noticing now as I'm recording this podcast, I'm really glad I ran across this before I uploaded this to YouTube. WWE's Twitter page is announcing that the scheduled match this week on SmackDown between Baron Corbin and Dolph Ziggler is now going to be for a spot in the Fastlane main event. So the winner of this match gets inserted into the triple threat, and it becomes a fatal four-way for the WWE title, which is fine. Just like I said a minute ago about AJ Styles, I don't care what they do. AJ just has to exit this pay-per-view and exit this match as the champion. But it just makes you wonder what the whole point of all this stuff was with Dolph Ziggler when he set the belt down and walked away and left. Then he shows back up randomly at the Royal Rumble. Now he's randomly back on TV here facing Baron Corbin next week, and then randomly inserted into a title match. So unless he wins it, which we don't really want to see because we all want to see AJ and Nakamura, unless Dolph Ziggler wins the belt, what's the point of all of this? They literally did nothing. Has he even came out on TV yet and explained why he forfeited the U.S. title and walked away and did all of that. It's just like he's randomly back. So, as per usual with Dolph Ziggler, every time WWE starts something with him, it winds up amounting to jack shit. But this looks like more of the power struggle between Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon. Daniel Bryan made it a triple threat, so Shane McMahon made it a fatal four-way. And earlier on in the show, Shane McMahon and D-Bry had an in-ring promo as well where there was all sorts of tension going on. So they're continuing this Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan issue, and now it's starting to, we're starting to get more of those hints. Some people are starting to give up hope that Daniel Bryan could actually wrestle again. It's kind of quieted down. We haven't talked much about it, but we need to keep the discussion open because WrestleMania is just a few weeks away, and if they're going to do anything here with Shane and Daniel Bryan, it's going to happen soon. And it's starting to boil over a little bit more here. And Shane even mentions in his promo that Daniel Bryan wants to get in the ring again. He says that everybody here knows that you long to be back in this ring. And he even accuses Daniel Bryan of living vicariously through Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and all of that shit. So to me, that's just more evidence that this match might actually happen. So I'm not giving up hope on it yet. Based on what we heard Shane McMahon tell Daniel Bryan in that promo, I think we can still see this match. So, I'm just hoping for it. I really want to see Daniel Bryan wrestle again. The fans miss him. I fucking miss him. And I hope in the next few weeks the shit hits the fan between the two of them and the match is on. We'll have to wait and see. But pretty good stuff. I mean, everything that Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon have done building up this issue and all of this tension has been pretty good. WWE hasn't rushed it. Part of their problem in some of their storylines is that they rush everything. Everything is just so rushed and so hurried. They are really taking their time with Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan. Even the fact that these two guys are at odds right now and they basically hate each other's guts, they're still being pretty cool to each other. They're not hurling crazy insults at each other. They're have a few jabs here or there, but nothing crazy. There's no pushing and shoving. Nobody's being a dick. Every time they're going to criticize one, it's prefaced with, I've got respect for you, but, that kind of thing. So eventually that's going to be out the window, and these two guys are going to have to start kicking the shit out of each other, and I hope we see it sooner rather than later. Speaking of Daniel Bryan, he also did a backstage segment where he announced WWE's first Smackdown Top 10 list. Now, I talked about this last week, that I thought it was an interesting idea because I was kind of treating it as like a ranking system, which I guess technically it is, but he keeps referring to it as this top 10 list, like it's fucking David Letterman. Okay, it's a list, we get it, it's a list, but isn't the word ranking better than a list? So I don't know, just a little pet peeve there. It just doesn't make sense why they're just, every week they're going to have a random ass list. So I don't have the list in front of me, but AJ Styles was number 1, Charlotte was number 2. I have no issue with them. We had Naomi and Becky Lynch in the women's division making the top 10. We had the Usos and the New Day all as a unit making the top 10 list. So I guess this does include tag teams. I think we had Randy Orton in there as well. And no Kevin Owens, no Baron Corbin, no Sami Zayn to the best of my knowledge. And I think Bobby Roode was on the list as well. So it's like, okay, but what's going to wind up being the point of this? Is Daniel Bryan going to come on TV every week and just announce the list? Okay, fine, but what does the list mean? Until you start making matches because of the list, I don't fucking know. So initially, I kind of thought it was an okay idea. Okay, I'll give it a chance, and I still will give it a chance. But after the first week, I don't really see the point. So I don't know. WWE has been trying a lot of different things on Raw and SmackDown lately. Raw's kind of got new graphics and some new music. SmackDown was doing some crazy graphics and shit. They were putting the words to, I think, Aiden English's song on the screen, and they were doing the jail cell was slamming down during the Usos promo last week. I didn't see any of that this week, to the best of my knowledge, but I only kind of skimmed through the show. And then when you add the top 10 list as well, I guess WWE's just trying to, just spice things up a little bit on both brands. Not sure if any of the shit is going to even wind up working yet or getting over, but I don't know. It is what it is. We also had a United States title match on SmackDown as well. Bobby Roode taking on Rusev. Rusev earned a number 1 contender spot last week. I kind of thought this match was going to take place at FastLane, but we got it on SmackDown instead. And Bobby Roode wound up getting the victory here. He just beat Rusev clean, hit him with the glorious DDT or whatever, and got the victory, which was kind of a disappointment because Rusev, does he really need the U.S. title again? So we've seen that, been there, done that so many times with him. I can't say that I'm too crazy disappointed that he lost, but the guy is so over. I was saying it a week ago before anybody else was, right after Rusev won the number one contender spot, I'm like, holy shit, here's where you do a double turn. This is the perfect opportunity because you have a guy that's super over. You have a heel that is so over with the audience. WWE is selling an assload of those Rusev calendars. You got Bobby Roode, who's a babyface, but really is a better heel and hasn't been a very good babyface since he's been on the main roster, and he was much better heel in NXT. This is where you do it, idiots, right here. Hello, flip him. Let Rusev be a babyface. Fans are cheering him anyway. But they didn't. They didn't do anything of the kind, nothing anywhere close to that. They just had a straight-up match. Bobby Roode beat him, and that was the end of it, or so we thought. Out of nowhere, during Bobby Roode's celebration, he gets nailed with an RKO by Randy Orton. So now you got to think that Randy Orton is going to be taking on Bobby Roode at FastLane for the United States title. And I don't know, man, maybe that's a good feud for Bobby Roode. I mean, to work with, a WWE legend like that. And to the best of my knowledge, shit, has Randy Orton ever held the U.S. belt before? Maybe not. I don't think that he has. So that might, I could be wrong there, but I can't remember any time where he held that U.S. belt, just the IC belt like once, right? So yeah, that could be an option for Randy Orton. He might wind up winning the U.S. title. Maybe there's a rematch at WrestleMania, maybe a Bobby Roode, Randy Orton gimmick match of some kind for the belt. I don't know. But it's not going to be a feud that I'm going to complain about too much because it is a match that we have never gotten. We've never gotten Bobby Roode and Randy Orton before, and I think the two can probably put on a good match. Just a little bit disappointed for Rusev because, Rusev's awesome. Aside from that, I don't have really anything of note on SmackDown. We had Charlotte getting a victory. I don't even know who she beat. The Usos cut a promo, and I think we saw some Riot Squad stuff as well. Yeah, I think it was Charlotte defeated Liv Morgan, I think it was. And because I remember Ruby Riott and Sarah Logan got tossed from ringside during that, and Charlotte made quick work of her. Aside from that, nothing of note. Another silly-ass Breezango segment or Fashion Files, which was actually kind of funny with the Ascension. The Bludgeon Brothers annihilated a couple of jobbers, and that was about it for SmackDown. So that's your Raw and SmackDown there in a nutshell. Like I said, not a whole lot going on. Just a few significant things here or there, but otherwise a pretty uneventful week of TV. Before I get out of here, though, I do want to acknowledge the Corey Graves and Booker T situation. As we know, Booker T is no longer on the Raw commentary team. He was replaced by Jonathan Coachman. And a couple of days after that first Monday Night Raw, it starts to come to light on the internet that Corey Graves may have played a role in Booker T no longer being on the show, to the point where Booker T on his podcast talks some pretty serious shit about Corey Graves and even threatens him. He says, if I ever run into him on the street, I'm going to beat his ass. And I just couldn't believe this. I'm like, holy shit. Now I understand, Booker T is a legend, and if he feels disrespected by some young punk, I can understand the urge to rip the guy's fucking head off. But at the same time, you cannot go on a podcast and threaten Corey Graves. What if something does happen to Corey Graves? Guess who the cops are coming after? Your ass. And I was surprised that a lot of people were saying, oh, this is just a work. Oh, GoodMicWork, don't buy into it. It's just a work. Okay, but why? Why? What can you do here? Booker T's a 50-year-old retired legend. Corey Graves is permanently retired because of concussions. He can't do anything. What's the point of doing a storyline between these two? There's no point whatsoever. And it just makes me think that this whole thing really is legit. And there's been a lot of reports of people saying this is just a work. Booker T just said this to give Corey Graves some extra heel heat or whatever, but why? What's the point of either of these guys taking shots at the other one? It seems to me that Booker T really was muscled out, because as much as I love Booker T, I mean, I think he's great and I always go to bat for the legends, he was not a very good commentator, and he probably needed to go. Jonathan Coachman, since he's been back a couple of weeks, he's got some work to do to kind of get back into the flow there. I don't think he's been quite as entertaining as he has in years past, but give him a chance. It's been 2 weeks. I think Jonathan Coachman can get better. And plus, it's just got to be so hard working next to Michael Cole and shit. And Jonathan Coachman is a serious announcer. I mean, he was on ESPN for all those years. This guy's no dummy. So I think it was a good replacement, replacing Booker T with somebody, maybe a little bit more professional. But Booker added those funny little crazy, what the fuck did he just say moments on Monday Night Raw, where we don't get that now with Coachman in his place. So I don't know what the story is behind the scenes with Corey Graves and Booker T. If this whole thing is a work, okay, fine. I'm not saying it's not. I'm not trying to prove that it's not a work. What I just don't understand is why do it? Why work us to begin with? It makes no fucking sense. So my instincts tell me that this is actually some legit heat between the two. And until it's known for sure, I guess nobody really knows. But Booker T, if he's really that mad at Corey Graves, he better watch himself. And plus on podcasts, podcasts are pretty fun for wrestling fans. We get to listen to these things. We get to hear a bunch of great stories. And a lot of times when wrestlers have podcasts, we get all sorts of great dirt and great stories from the past and everything. I don't want storylines and angles starting to find their way into podcasts. I want podcasts to be as honest as possible. I don't want this to turn out to be a thing where Booker T invites Corey Graves on his podcast just to spark a big number. Maybe that's what the work is about. I don't know. I would prefer, though, if wrestling angles stayed out of podcasts, because there's just no real place for them there. And then if they start, happening on podcasts, then we're going to have to question everything we hear. And I don't want to fucking do that. I mean, look at Chris Jericho's podcast. The dude just had a hellacious little mini feud and an amazing match with Kenny Omega. And then the very next day, Kenny is a guest on his podcast. You know what I mean? So it's, these are shoot interviews. They're shoots. It's supposed to be the real deal. So I don't want to see wrestling angles, start taking place on podcasts. But maybe if this really is a work between the two, that's what it's about. Maybe it's about a podcast appearance for Corey Graves with Booker T. I really don't know. I don't know Corey Graves personally, but if you look at him and you listen to the way he talks, I guess it's not out of the realm of possibility that maybe this guy has kind of got a little bit of an attitude because he's great at his job. And he's found a good niche, and he's had a lot of success, so maybe he's got some cockiness and some arrogance to him. Maybe he's rubbed some guys the wrong way. Maybe he didn't like having Booker T on the announce team, and he pissed and moaned to management until they removed him. I think management would probably make that decision on their own. I mean, Booker T, when was he brought in? Was he brought in to replace David Otunga? Is that how it went? I forgot. So, to me, it was eventually they were going to say, okay, enough is enough with Booker T. So I don't know, how instrumental Graves really was in Booker's removal, but Booker seems to be blaming him, and the whole situation is pretty awkward and weird. And if these guys see each other behind the scenes every Monday, I'm curious what those interactions are like. I just, who the fuck knows? But anyway, that pretty much wraps it up for the wrestling news. A few of you did want me to comment on the Super Bowl. I did watch that at a friend's house right on the beach. Beautiful 80-degree day here in San Diego, watching the Super Bowl with a whole bunch of Patriots fans. So I was very happy that the Patriots lost, because you guys know my feelings on them. Not a really big Patriots fan, not a big Tom Brady fan. I'm not just a crazy random hater. I don't just hate them because they win all the time. It's been very well documented why I really don't like the New England Patriots when I used to have their back. And I'm getting really sick of seeing them winning. I mean, they literally are the 2007 John Cena of football. And enough's enough with these fuckers. And they should have lost last year. They were down 155-3 in the fourth quarter, and they still won. And I thought the same thing was going to happen this year. I thought they would easily dispose of Philly. But Philly played their asses off. It was a great game. It was a fun game. It was not boring at all. It was a nail-biter nearly right down to the end there. And I had a great time watching it. So congrats to the Eagles. I'm thrilled with the outcome of the Super Bowl. And everybody in Philly, you guys have been waiting a long time to get a Super Bowl. So congrats to you. That's it. I'm going to wrap it up and get out of here for this week. Thanks again for joining me. Like I said earlier, keep an eye on the channel. I might not be up here until episode 483, but there's a chance I'll be up here Monday, Tuesday, depending on when I'm off from work, with some sort of a live stream for shits and gigs. And big announcements coming to the channel in the next couple of weeks regarding WrestleMania as well. So you guys have a great rest of your week and weekend. Leave all of your comments and thoughts and opinions in the comments below, and I will talk to you very, very soon. Until next time, peace.